In the hill surrounded by tall green mountain, there lived a tiny little dog named Bob. Bob was not like the other dogs in the village, who were big, strong, and brave. Bob was small, so small in fact, that he could fit into a basket with room to spare. His fur was soft and light brown, with a little white patch on his chest, and his ears stood up just a little too tall for his tiny body. He had big, round eyes that sparkled with curiosity and a tiny nose that twitched whenever he was excited. Despite his size, Bob had the biggest heart in the village. He loved everyone: cats, chickens, cows, and even the grumpy old goats. But most of all, Bob loved adventures. Every day, he would wander around the village, sniffing the air, wagging his tail, and looking for something new to discover. One sunny afternoon, as Bob was trotting along the path near the village square, he overheard a conversation between two of the village's larger dogs, Rex and Max. They were sitting under a big oak tree, looking up at the mountain. "I hear there's a treasure hidden somewhere on that mountain," Rex said, his tail wagging lazily. "It's a chest full of shiny gold coins and jewels. I bet no one has ever found it." Max, the larger of the two, barked excitedly, "Maybe we should go find it. But who can make it all the way up that steep mountain?" Bob, overhearing the conversation, had a bright idea. "I could do it!" he barked, wagging his tiny tail furiously. "I could find the treasure!" Rex and Max looked down at Bob and burst out laughing. "You, Bob? You're too small. You wouldn't even be able to climb up the first rock on the mountain," Rex said with a chuckle. Max grinned. "Yeah, you might get lost halfway up. It's a big mountain, and you're just a little dog." Bob's tail drooped a little, but then he puffed out his tiny chest and stood tall. "I may be small, but I'm brave, and I can do anything if I set my mind to it," Bob said, his eyes sparkling with determination. The two big dogs laughed again, but Bob wasn't discouraged. He decided that he would prove them wrong. The next morning, he packed a tiny sack with a biscuit for the journey and set off toward the mountain. As Bob began his climb, he realized how difficult it was for someone so small. The rocks were big and slippery, and the path seemed endless. But Bob wasn't giving up. He scampered over the smaller rocks and squeezed through narrow gaps, his little paws working hard every step of the way. He even had to leap up some of the larger boulders, using all his strength to jump higher than he ever had before. Along the way, Bob met a variety of animals. He passed a family of squirrels gathering acorns, a sleepy owl napping on a branch, and a rabbit who warned him about the tricky paths ahead. Each time, Bob would say, "I'm on my way to find a treasure. I'm tiny, but I can do it." The higher Bob climbed, the steeper the mountain became, and the more challenging the journey seemed. But he didn't stop. He slipped a little on the wet rocks, but with determination, he always climbed back up. His tiny legs might have been short, but his spirit was long and strong. Finally, after hours of climbing, Bob reached the top of the mountain. There, tucked away behind a large boulder, he found an old, weathered chest. His heart raced with excitement. He had done it. He had found the treasure. Bob carefully opened the chest with his tiny paws, and inside, instead of gold coins or jewels, he found something even more precious: a collection of beautiful, sparkling stones, each one a different color. The stones shone in the sunlight, and Bob could tell that they had been collected over many years. With a wag of his tail, Bob realized that the treasure wasn't just about gold. It was about the journey and the adventure. He had climbed the mountain not for wealth, but for the joy of discovery and the thrill of reaching the top. Excited and proud, Bob carefully gathered the stones in his little sack and made his way back down the mountain. When he returned to the village, the other dogs were waiting for him, surprised to see him with the sparkling stones. "I did it!" Bob announced, his tail wagging. "I found the treasure!" Rex and Max stared in awe. "You really did it, Bob," Max said. "We didn't think you could, but you proved us wrong." Bob smiled proudly and shared the stones with everyone in the village. They were beautiful, and they sparkled like the sun. That day, Bob learned something important. It doesn't matter how big or small you are. What matters is your heart, your determination, and your willingness to never give up on your dreams. From that day on, the village dogs looked at Bob with newfound respect. They knew that no matter how small he was, Bob was a big dog in spirit, and there was nothing he couldn't do.